Hi everybody, it's Dan O'Connor from Dan O'Connor Training, and I think
It's time for Mail Call.
All right, today's question comes from, we're going to call her Mary. And Mary has a situation that I thought many of us could relate to. She has someone who is a sniper at work. And a sniper is somebody who insults you masked in humor in a public forum. And she said that she has tried one of my strategies that she got from, I'm not sure where, maybe DanO'ConnorTraining.com from our Step Out of the Shadows and Speak course. But she says that to these types of comments, I recommend using a 3-step process. Step number 1, repeat back what they said. That's called backtracking. And number 2, make a clarifying statement. And number 3, ask a closed-ended question. So to put it all together, for example, let's say that somebody says to you during a meeting, when you're starting the meeting, if you're the leader of it, "Hey, Mary, you look kind of tired today," in front of other people. And you know they're not saying, "Hey, baby, you look kind of tired. Is there something I can do for you?" And so if you say to somebody, for example, "John, you just said I was tired, and it sounds like what you're really trying to do is undermine my authority. Is that what you're trying to do?" Mary's concern is, and it looks as though what has happened to her is this. She said, it may be different for men versus women. Mary is concerned about, she said that this particular person, for example, is an alpha who always goes in the defense. Ooga, ooga, ooga. And when I respond in this manner, for example, the person will counter by saying things such as, "Why are you always unable to take simple statements and you take it so personally?" Or, "Why are you so sensitive?" You know, women are accused of being sensitive more than men are. Or, "Wow, you're very defensive. Did I hit a nerve?" And then they'll give you patronizing laughter. Or, "It was just an observation. Don't be so emotional." Interesting word, emotional. Women are so emotional. Or, "This isn't about you. Can we just move along with the meeting?" Directing, taking the power away from you. So Mary goes on to say, my response to such pushback would be to give a pleasant smile, interesting that you'd say pleasant, and say something such as, "Well, that answers my question, thanks. But I'm very direct," says Mary, "and is that too much of throwing down the gauntlet?" All right, thanks for any additional strategies. All right, Mary, you ready? Okay, this is a biggie now. This is for really advanced communicators, and we talk about this a lot in our course, Stepping Out of the Shadows and Speak, where it's interesting, Mary, that you would say, "Is this throwing down the gauntlet?" Because that indicates to me that you see this as a competition. And you probably see it that way because that's what it is. It's a competition, and the prize is power. And it's interesting because we are in a new 𝗓𝗲. How do you say 𝗓𝗲? We're in a new plateau, a new age in human history. We're in the age of meaning. And what that means to us as professional communicators is, what is the name of the game? What really is going to, if what you're looking for is power, what does power mean? The people who are coming to work nowadays, for example, are not coming as they were before for a simple paycheck or for security or for even career development. People are coming to where they work. I'm talking especially about the younger generation now who's in the power position, looking for meaning. They want to connect with their boss. It used to be that we were looking to respect our boss. We wanted that to be part of the package. I want a boss who I can respect. I want to work for a company that I can respect. Well, more than that, we want now to work with a boss with whom I have a personal, emotional connection. I want to feel something from my boss. And having said that, the strategy that I would recommend, Mary, is what real assertive communication is all about. And what real assertive communication is about is being clear and direct in our message, because there's almost no arguing with clear, direct, honest communication. Taking out the different attacks, taking out the power plays, and simply being clear in our communication does so many different things for us. However, depending on whatever our personality type is, whatever type we are takes us away from that, because whatever personality type you are, there's a core that all of us share because it's all the same core. But life changes us in different ways for different people. And we become more and more of a type, so to speak. You know, if you're a 1 or a 2 or a, you know, an 8 or a yellow or a giraffe or a INTRJ, whatever it may be, that's taking you away from core, and that's bringing you more towards ego-based communication. Now, that's the same for all of us. No matter what type you are, that type brings you away from self, from your core. And if we speak truly solely from our id, you know, our core, that is assertive communication that is not taking the form of whatever our personality type is and wants to defend as our image. Because what it sounds like is you are concerned that this person is taking away from your power, and they really are undermining your authority, and that's your concern. Isn't it interesting how we don't sit around thinking about how can we show somebody that we are in charge, or that, you know, we have more power than they do, if we truly are not threatened by them at all? I believe that there are only 2 different places that we come from when we communicate. We are either coming from a place of great love, or we're coming from a place of great fear. And we might be thinking, you know, that we are simply angry because of what somebody did, you know, or you're angry at this person because of his constant attacks. Chances are, if we think about it, what's happening is you are afraid that they really are undermining your authority. You are afraid that they are going to expose you, you know, for a fraud. You know, that's how you feel. I'm not saying you are, but, you know, we all have this fear that comes up when somebody starts to say things like that sniper is saying to you, that makes us want to crush it, you know, crush that person, because if we don't crush it, we're afraid of what will happen. And I mean, think about if that person were truly challenged. You know, let's say that this person were developmentally or emotionally challenged, and you worked with him or her in the office. And by the way, I hope more of us do that. But let's say that, I mean, I hope we work with people like that and encourage that type of hiring in our workplace. But let's say that we work with somebody who was challenged and they didn't know any better, and they were simply being honest in their communication and said something to you as you started a meeting, such as, "Carolyn, are you tired?" Because they were concerned, you know, and they thought, "Are you tired? Because I can get something for you, baby, sweet baby." You know, they just wanted to help you. They thought, "Oh, poor baby, you look tired. Can I do something for you?" Let's say that that's what they were saying. That's a great example in 2 different ways. Number one, you would not be angry with them. You know, you might say something such as, "Oh, no, baby, I'm okay. We're going to start the meeting, okay?" And people would think, "Oh, Carolyn's so sweet," because they weren't threatening you. They were simply asking, "Oh, are you tired?" The other thing that that illustrates is, if they were simply asking you that, coming from a place that's not hostile, you would not be hostile with them. You'd think, "Oh, baby, no, I'm not tired." And then you'd think, "Oh, I got to get some more sleep." But you wouldn't be angry or upset with them, because it's almost impossible to counter or be angry with somebody when they're simply coming from a loving place, you know, or when they're just being pure and honest and genuine. We sit around and dream up ways, you know, to be nasty to people or to be a more unenlightened communicator when their communication is coming from an unloving place. But you cannot combat lovelessness with more lovelessness. It does not work. You know, you can't illuminate a room by casting darkness into it. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. And so, having said that, consider this, Mary. What if the next time somebody says something like that to you, especially this guy, you really pulled out all the stops and simply responded in an honest, straightforward way that comes not from a defensive or fearful place, but that comes from a loving place, you know, comes from loving who you are, and you're going to be true to that thing that you really are. And imagine that you were sitting in a room and somebody said something to the meeting leader. Let's say that John said something to Mary, something such as, "Mary, you look kind of tired today." And Mary were to simply look at that person and say, "John, when you say things like that in front of everybody here at this meeting, that hurts me. And I don't think you are aware that that hurts me." Or say something such as, "John, when you say things like that, I find it embarrassing and somewhat humiliating." Now, notice I purposely gave you the head tilt, because that's showing I am not aggressive right now. I'm standing in front of you naked. You know what I mean? In a metaphorical way. You know, I am exposing myself to you. I am not combating what you say. I'm simply letting you know what the effects are of what you're saying. You know, there's cause and effect. I'm simply trying to illuminate the effect of what you're saying, and that's it. Now, if you were to watch that, which person do you think, if you were to side with one, you know, if your concern is power and authority, if you as a spectator had to choose which of those two people you were going to side with, which would you choose? And let's say that people were keeping score. You know, if scorekeeping is a thing of the past, because anybody who's keeping score is going to lose themselves. They're going to lose. But if people are spectators keeping score, there's no way to win that. You know, if you were to come up with a really nasty comment, you know, like you were to say something, you had mentioned in your letter that maybe sometimes you say something such as, well, that answers that, doesn't it? And then move right along. The spectator might say, oh, 1 score for Mary, but all they're doing is waiting for, you know, they're going to then turn to John and wait to mark his scorecard with 1 more point. That's not loyalty, that's scorekeeping. And so if you were to instead, now this is a big deal for many of us, you know, if you were to simply let somebody know from the loving place inside of you what is truly happening when those types of comments are made, you will notice that that will truly change the pattern of this difficult behavior, because you're changing the substance of it. You know, instead of engaging or instead of coming from the same place, you're saying, that is communication of the past. And when you look through human history at the people who have really changed human history, you know, the singular people who changed the entire course of human history, these were not people who showed great strength under pressure. They weren't. You know, when I think about my grandfather, who changed human history, I believe, you know, he made a ruling that integrated the schools in the South. And when I read the books that people wrote about him, the people who were affected by that change, who were in the courtroom waiting for him to rule as to whether they're allowed to go to school or not because of the color of their skin, what I find most interesting about the comments that they made, my grandfather, I believe, was a very strong person, and people always said that about him, what strength he had. Those children who were there, none of them commented on, maybe they did, you know, but their message was not about, oh, when I looked at his strong face and, you know, I looked at the strength in his eyes when he made his decision. They did talk about his eyes, and they talked about his stature, and they talked about many things about him. They did not describe him as somebody who they found to be strong, even though that's exactly what he was. And he was, with great strength, delivering a ruling that is going to then change history. What they talked about was the kindness in his eyes. And they would talk about this kind man who was helping them, you know, and change their entire life story. And they knew at the time that they were part of a big change in human history. And what they consistently, each one of them, more and more that you hear them talk, the more and more they mentioned it, was this kind man who came in and showed them kindness with his words. And when you look back throughout human history and those who changed it, you'll note, if you haven't yet, that those who changed the course of human history were not those who showed great strength under pressure or in the face of adversity. They were people who showed great love. They were people who, when they were imprisoned, didn't show great strength. They showed great love and kindness. It was people who, when they were crucified in front of the townsfolk, didn't show great strength. They changed the course of human history because they showed great love. They are people who, when, for example, in this presidential election, I believe, I don't have any idea who's going to win, and the last thing I would do would be political on this channel, but I will tell you, the person who's going to change human history and who's going to win this election is not going to be the person who shows great strength, who shows that they are the toughest. It is going to be the person who, I don't even know who this person is, and maybe none of us do yet. It is going to be the person who, in the midst of this embarrassing stain in our nation's electoral history, will show great wisdom. And great wisdom is a product of great love and great kindness, and that's what they will show. So remember that, you know, the thing that is the most powerful thing in the universe, if you want to show that you are not weak, you know, if that's your concern here, and it sounds like it is, Remember, the workers who are coming to work today want to side with somebody. But the reason they side with people, with brands, with employers is different from what it used to be. They want a personal, emotional connection. And the strength that they're looking for comes from love, comes from being that thing that we are. And the opposite of weakness is not strength. When you are being crucified in front of the townsfolk, or when you are being imprisoned unjustly, or when you are being detained unlawfully, when you are being tried unjustly, or when you have to respond to somebody who's treating you unfairly, the opposite of weakness is not strength. The opposite of a weak communicator is a loving communicator. The opposite of a weak person is a loving person. And the person who changes human history and the person who can change your personal history is going to be not the person who shows great strength while confronting the office sniper. It is the person who can show great love. Because the opposite of weakness is not strength. The opposite of weakness and what you can show. And when you do it, it will transform not just your pattern, but it will transform you, and it will transform everybody in that room, is love. The opposite of strength is love. Remember that and come from that place. You don't even need to think about what you're going to say. You don't even need to do it. If you just think the next time he comes from that place, because it's coming from him from a fearful place, I'm going to show him love. That can take many forms. I can love myself by leaving you. I can love myself by being honest with you. I can love myself by addressing the elephant in the room. I can be loving to you by firing you. I can be loving to you by divorcing you. I can be loving in many different ways, but that's what I'm going to be. And you don't even have to think about what you say. If you were to say something in a loving way like, John, I'm sure you're not aware of this, but when you say things like that to me in front of a group, I find them embarrassing and hurtful. And then you can be a little strategic by giving them the 3-second look and a head tilt. And then going along with the rest of your meeting. Which person would you side with if what you're worried about is the peanut gallery taking score? And which of those two people would you want to be? You know, if you had to choose the person who said, well, that answers that, doesn't it? Or the person who said, that, by the way, what I delivered was a hamburger. When you say this, I feel this. You could even throw in a because. You don't have to. And you were honest like that. That takes great strength. But that's not the opposite of the spectrum, strength. What you're going for is love. Strength, just part of the package. So, and that's something that you'll find everything that I just said in my communication course, and if it's something that you think would benefit you, check it out at DanO'ConnorTraining.com. It's the Step Out of the Shadows and Speak course, and I hope that it helped you. Principles like that have helped me a lot. And this is Dan O'Connor. For everybody here at Dan O'Connor Training, it looks like Buddy and Maggie are hiding because there was a thunderstorm, and they're very fearful of those. It's natural to have fear. Buddy, however, comes to me despite his fear and cuddles up in a thunderstorm, not because he's strong, but because he loves me. So thank you, Buddy, for loving me. And thank you, everybody, for watching this video. Make sure to like it, share it, and comment on it. And if you don't like it, comment on it and tell me why. This is Dan O'Connor from Dan O'Connor Training, signing off.